And we're live. I gotta get used to shooting this thing in landscape mode now. I used to always do these videos in landscape mode. Huh? Yeah, I gotta fill up the space. Don't look at that mess right there. Don't do that, guys. Don't look at that mess right there. And if you're in the live feed, feel free to check in. I keep on looking at the wrong side. I keep on looking for the camera here. It's right there. What's up, Steve? Keith, aloha. All right, so let's get this started. I got a bunch of questions on my Instagram live. Havoc, we're back. What the hell? My comments disappeared. Daryl, aloha. All right, so here's the deal. I got somebody asking me how I do borders in my Instagram live feed. Jason, aloha. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you guys two things. I'm going to show you guys first how I cut my borders, and second, how I polish the polymer, because that's a common question as well. I left Insta for YouTube. Glock 19X, I appreciate you. Hold on, guys. Let me make sure that Mel has the phone so that it doesn't ring while we're doing this, and then I'm going to take you guys through the first part of this. Now, I'm going to be walking you guys through the borders, and you guys will not have little links like there's usually on my videos where we talk about the actual part numbers and everything. But I will give you guys a look at the bits that I'm using, and you guys will be able to see them in action. Now, these bits are a little bit dull. I haven't replaced them. Matter of fact, I better. I don't want to go ahead and embarrass myself on YouTube Live. So the bit that I am going to be grabbing right now is called 111, and this is a tiny milling bit that I use for my corners. So let me take you guys through this. Now, the bits that I'm using, the 9902 is the first milling bit, and this is an end mill bit right here, 9902. All right. If you guys go to my old videos, you'll see links. No, you won't see links to this one. I did the stones last. I got to do an updated video, granted. And then we've got this 111, this tiny little one. Let's see. All right, Redlock Security up in this building. What's up? All right, there you go, Redlock. All right, so let me take you guys first through the border cutting process. Thank you, Glock. All right, there we go. All right, the first thing I'm gonna do when I do my borders, the first thing I do is I go and I mark out where I want that line to be at, and I try and get it as straight distance-wise with the frame here and here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me zoom in a little bit. Whoa, shit. All right, so I try to get spatially about equidistant between this point right here and this point up here, and then I go ahead and let me move this down a little bit, actually. All right, that looks pretty equidistant, big words. And then I'm going to draw my line in, just a pencil line. All right, the next thing I do, shit, that isn't equidistant. All right, the next thing I'm going to do, hold on, let me re-equidistance this thing. Nice thing about using pencil to mark your lines is you can erase them real easy. All right, let's try that again. It was moving it down that messed me up. All right, there you go. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw my borders. I do these borders that come down in the back over here, these little cuts that come down in the back over here, and then I use this line to kind of extend out right here, and do something like that. All right, general idea. All right, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm sorry if I'm not answering any comments while I'm doing this. I'm going to be concentrating on not embarrassing myself on YouTube Live here. Okay. In fact, let's see if I can move you guys to a better vantage point. Whoa. All right, you guys all right? All right, there you go. All right, let's take a look at that. I'm cutting at about 15,000 RPM. I'm going to start with the back over here. I've got that back line cut. I cut it a little bit short so I can work my corner in with a smaller bit. You guys get a general idea of what that's looking like. And then this guy. Pretty darn good. I gotta touch up this one spot right here. You guys see how fast these bits cut. Now that's good and bad. It's bad if you don't have a lot of control. It's good if you do. We had a whole bunch of fuck up just now. But if you guys are still here, I'm still cutting. All right. All right. Sorry for that interruption, guys. We had a quick interruption on the feed there. Not sure what happened. All right, now I got to get to this little cut right here. I'm only going to get a little ways in there. I'm not going to go all the way in. I got to get my YouTube live game up. All right, now I'm seating this bit a lot further into the collet than I did with the other bit. All right, I want more control. I want less oscillation on that bit. You're gonna see I'm gonna start to whittle away material right here in the corner. This is probably the toughest corner. I don't know about for everybody, but definitely for me, this is the toughest corner to clean up. This is where it gets pretty difficult. All right, this corner is next. Going around these corners just a little bit. That's very precarious. And we're going to work our way into this little nook over here. I go ahead and make my frame jobs more difficult for myself by adding this feature on the grip panels. This is extra. You don't have to go and make it difficult for yourself like this. But I like to add this little feature into the framework because I think it gives it a little bit more dimension. All right. Now after, oh, I got one more corner to work. This corner right up here, I believe. All right, now after I get that cleaned up, I go and put on these, I call them buckwheat wheels, but they're basically abrasive fabric wheels or brush wheels. And I just go in and gently touch up all the borders with this to take off that flash that's all around the edges. It's important to note you don't want to apply too much pressure with this wheel or too much duration. You can actually mess up your borders using this wheel. A lot of times when I'm done using that, I'll double check my borders to make sure they're straight because it takes away that flash and it shows me a clear line of sight to my borders. And I can see right here, this is not perfectly straight. That's how I'm cutting those borders. All right, so let me pull you guys up top, touch bases with you guys, answer whatever questions I might have missed. Now, let me see. Buffering ruined my hard-on. Oh, don't worry, it'll come back. Got this notification while taking a shit. That's awesome, man. Even in the bathroom, join me. All right, so here's the deal. These borders will need cleaning up. I'm going to need to kind of even that out a little bit, but generally you can see how straight they are. It's pretty straight. It's about 95%. I'm going to touch that up. You guys can take a good close look at those corners. That will need to be cleaned up. Let me get my face up out of this thing so you guys can see that. Okay, those borders will need to be cleaned up just a little bit. All these borders down here, these are pretty decent. Just this top one, the most difficult one over there, is a little bit off, but you guys can take a good look at those corners right now. You can see this side as well. Oh, this side I got to brush clean. But you guys can see that flash that I used that wheel to take off right there. All right. Now polishing. I get questions, tons of questions about polishing. And I always used to refer guys to the gunfuofficial.com blog because I actually broke it down pretty detailed right there. With polishing, it's actually not hard. And every polymer will respond differently. So black lock polymer, for instance, is a pretty good standard to base your work off of. There are softer polymers like the peanut butter Glocks or this Glock, the Glock, the FDE Glocks, and those guys you can actually they're softer material. You can actually clean them up a lot faster. You've got harder polymers like P10C or SIG. Those are a lot more difficult to polish. You're going to get a lot of gray. HK is one of the worst ones. Fuck HK. You guys are going to get a lot of gray, even in the buffed out areas. After you finish cleaning it all up and everything, it'll still be gray. So we're fortunate with the Glock polymers to be able to get a really nice high gloss out of it. I'm going to be starting off, well, I've actually already started off with 320 grit over here to cut this down. You guys can get a good look at that. Oh, I should hide the serial number. You guys can get a good look at that rough cut in right there. I'm going to be switching it up to 400 grit, and then I'm going to be transitioning over to Cratex wheels. So you guys hang in there with me. I got this 400 grit wheel I'm about to throw on right now, and I'm going to use this small wheel. Show you guys this polishing process. You guys take a good look again at where we're starting off with and how that's going to change. Let me get centered here. Oh Jesus! Gotta get used to this YouTube thing, guys. Two fingers. Got it. All right. So I'm going with the 400 grit wheel, and I'm going to be not going front to back this way. I'm going to actually be doing an oscillating type motion. So I'm actually going to be orbital type motion. I'm actually going to be making little round wax on, wax off motions with this bit. And you'll see that as I slowly work my way forward, I'm going to be leaving much darker polymer behind me because I've removed a lot of the large scratches that were in the polymer. Okay? And that's using gentle pressure with a 400 grit wheel. I'm just gently removing the scratches. I'm using the heat, the surface friction that I'm building up with this to heat up this polymer and actually soften up those ledges. You see that getting shiny already? All right, it's not shiny. We're gonna make it even shinier than that. And I'm gonna show you guys even more steps than I typically use when I do a frame job. I mean, unless somebody's requesting a super high gloss finish, which is a terrible idea, I do not polish it much beyond what you guys see. I do one step past where we're at right now. I've got a couple of deep scratches. Right here. I'm going to gently work those out. I'm going to apply the wheel to it and get heat up in the surface of that polymer so it starts to melt it into place. And again, this orbital motion, this oscillating motion with the bit to gently remove all of the scratches in there. I got heavy scratches up here. Hopefully we don't get interrupted again. Now the idea with this 400 grit is not to remove a lot of material. What I'm going to do is wipe that off, and I'm going to show you guys what's left behind now. All right. I'm going to start to work this scallop cut that I put into the trigger guard as well. Hold on a sec. Let me turn off the music. Maybe that's what's causing it. I got music quietly playing in the background there. All right, so I'm going to start working on this little scallop cut that I've been doing. And I'm going to gently remove the scratches out of there. This cut, I have to be very gentle removing it because you can see it from both the bottom and the top. And so I have to maintain this line, very clean line, top and bottom. Likewise with this side. Oops, out of screen, there you go. And I'm still using that orbital motion with light pressure in order to get those scratches out. I'm going to come around to the front of the trigger guard, and I usually perch my hand on top here and then just arc this way. Somebody asked earlier in the live feed, what RPM am I running at? I'm running at about 15,000 RPM, and there you guys can see how the polish is coming along. I've got another bevel that I'm going to touch up, and it's right here on the edge. This is so that you don't rub your fingers too much as you're getting your hand tucked up under that undercut. So I put this little bevel in on the edges over here. When you shoot the guns that I work on, I want it to be super comfortable. I want you to be freaking out with how much more enjoyable it is to shoot your gun, and I want you to be able to focus on accurate, repeatable shots downrange, not on the discomfort because of the framework or the shortcomings of the stock frame. I'm switching over to a Cratex. This is a medium cut wheel right over here. This is a rubber wheel with abrasives infused into it. Okay, they're pretty expensive. I usually have links for it available, but right now with the site down, we do not have them up. We'll be getting them up soon. And I'm going to just start. Let me zoom this in so you guys can get a good look at this. You're messing with guns on YouTube. That's why it's buffering. Probably, man. I wouldn't be surprised. This is a how-to, though. I'm not selling anything. All right, so I'm going to use this Cratex wheel, this medium grit Cratex wheel, to just kind of go over all of those edges I was working on. And this one builds up a lot of surface friction. Cratex with the rubber wheels, you can get a lot of surface friction out of these guys. So you're using both the abrasive part of the wheel as well as the friction and the heat to really soften up and recontour all the little ridges from the cuts that you made when you were sanding this guy smooth. As I go over with this wheel, you guys are going to see the finish on this combat green get even darker. If you haven't noticed it yet, you'll notice it very shortly, but it's going to get darker and shinier. That's because we're removing even more of those little surface scratches. We're taking down the ridges, and we're giving a much finer finish here. Now this is typically where I stop. I don't typically go past that point. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to show you guys the next steps if you want to get it even glossier than that. Because I know you guys are a bunch of geeks when it comes to this polymer polishing stuff. So I'm going to take you guys to the next step. And all it is one step down in terms of grit. We're going to go with the fine Cratex wheel. Put you guys back in frame over here. I'm going to go with the fine Cratex wheel. I'm going to follow up with gently covering all of those areas that I already went over one more time. Again, this light orbital type motion where I'm kind of doing the wax on, wax off passes. Light pressure, 15,000 RPMs, Cratex wheel. Alright, so let's show you guys where we're at now. I'm going to go ahead and wipe that off. And that is with the, oops, darn it. That's with the fine Cratex. You guys can see that finish starting to come out. Alright, fine Cratex. I have a product here called Novus, and this is a polymer or plastic polish, and I use Novus to kind of eke out the very last bits of shine that I want. Got an old buffing wheel over here that I'm going to use. This is a cotton or felt buffing wheel. And I'm going to take the Novus and I'm going to spread it around on this so it doesn't go slinging everywhere and getting white creamy stuff all over my shop. You guys know what I'm talking about. Again, orbital motion. Let me zoom you guys in. I'm holding my Dremel like I'd hold a pencil. I want a lot of control out of the Dremel right now. I want to be able to control this. I don't want it running away from me. So I'm going to hold it like a pencil. It's very comfortable, and you know, your hand should be used to that. I should tape up this fucking serial number, shouldn't I? It's okay. All right. And then the final step is a nylon brush wheel. Just like this. Nylon brush wheel. Most Dremel kits come with them. Oh, let me get that in there. Nylon brush wheel. I'm going to go ahead and just gently buff this surface out. All right. Let me bring you guys up top and we will answer questions once I unzoom this guy down. All right, there you go. That's the normal size of my head. Let's see. I hate it when they get white, creamy stuff all over. Me too. Me too. And it's all over the place. Can't stand it. Have you ever seen? All I've ever seen is a Dremel brand in the gray. They are roughly 400 grit. Yeah, I buy all my stuff from a different website. So let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at that trigger guard so you guys can get an idea of once I find the right angle. So there's your high gloss polishing job on this polymer. It's looking nice and smooth over there, and that's all it really takes, guys. I start off with 320 grit. Let's cover it again. I start off with 320 grit. I go to 400 grit, and you could start off with a lower grit. You could start off with, like, I mean, if you wanted to cut super fast on your undercut, you could start off with 80 grit. Here's the thing with going starting off with really gritty sandpaper or sanding drums is it's going to take you a lot longer to clean up the scratches that are left behind. With the finer drums, it takes you longer to cut away all the material, but it's also a lot faster to get that final polish on. You guys saw how fast that was. That is not just because I've done this a lot. It's actually because I started off with 320 grit rather than something lower like 120 or 80 or something like that. All right. Important things to note when you're polishing. The polishing process, for me, as I was taught, revolves around creating surface friction on the surface that will gently melt down all these ridges, right? So when you make a cut with a wheel and it's got a big piece of grit that comes through, it leaves this valley, right? And you got all these mountain ranges of polymer that are sticking up. You're applying heat to that with the friction on the wheel, as well as whatever abrasive you're using to cut, to gently work those mountain ridges down to, you know, as close as possible to that valley level. So nice RPMs. I work with about 15,000 on this process, and gentle pressure. You don't want to apply too much pressure because you don't want to overheat it as well. You don't want to overheat your polymer and start to get it to ball up and whatnot. So using about 15,000 RPMs, light pressure, and then the YouTube Live is kind of buns right now. 320, 400. and then onto the medium grit Cratex, the fine grit Cratex. Somebody just asked, what's the polish? It's called Novus, Novus. I don't know. We can. Yeah, we can. We'll post up links. Mel's going to try and post up links. One of us is going to try and post up links. No flits? No, I'm sure you could use flits. What do you think about cutting borders with hobby knives? I started doing, I mean, that was one of the techniques that I used when I first got started, and it works great. It takes a little bit longer, and it's a little bit more precarious. It's very easy for you to slip, cut yourself. It's very easy for you to slip and cut the frame. You know, just make a gash where you don't want it to be. And there's nothing wrong with it. Some of the best guys in the industry use hobby knives or wood carving tools to make their borders. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's if you spend the time doing it, I think it's a good technique. Cutting steps above the slide release. Cutting steps above the slide release for my thumb. What grit bit? Cutting above the slide release for my thumb. I'm not sure what you're asking me, Marcus. I'm gonna be honest with you. J Cud, when I do interior work, I use wood carving knives and heat the blade up a little bit. There you go. That'll probably work. Heating it up is going to introduce a variable to me that is inconsistent, and that is that the heat or the thermal transfer that occurs in the blade, once you heat it up, it's cooling off. When you first heat it up, it's going to cut very easy, and it might cut more than you want. You might also deform the edges of your border. I don't know. I've never tried it. But if I had to guess, just hearing that, my speculation would be that due to thermal transfer, you're going to get an inconsistent cut with a heated up blade. Now, if it's a consistent, like an iron, guys do hot borders. If it's a consistent heat, I think you can probably cut more consistently with your borders. So, hope that answers the questions in terms of how I do my polishing and how I do my borders currently. I haven't updated any videos. I got to clean that line up. I haven't updated any videos lately of how I do my border cuts, but the process that I use now is a lot faster. It's a lot more precise. It affords me the ability to do a lot more, have a lot more diversity with the cuts that I do, but it's also more precarious than the old style that I showed you guys in, what was it, my second video. I think I used wood carving knives first, and then I went to stones. The milling bits are many times more dangerous than using stones. But once you get used to it, you can cut very clean with them, very consistent. All right, guys. Well, that is my live feed for today. I appreciate you guys joining in. Mel needs to make a shirt with your face on Yoda's body. That would be fucked up. Thank you for that, though. These shirts, the arm shirts, are going to be available on gunfuofficial.com. The site went down. Shopify took our site down. It's going to be coming back up, so stay tuned for that. Mel is currently working on getting it live, and the first 35 people who buy these shirts will be receiving a golden ticket for the Davey Walker contest. If you guys are not familiar with that contest, if you have not watched my IG live, check out at Dave Mods Customs. That's Mods with a Z, and that's my IG. If you guys like this live feed, and all the YouTube guys say this, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Anyway, guys, Dave Mods, Gunfu, thanks for hanging out with me. I'll be back with more later on. Peace. I gotta let this thing run a little while. If I stop it now, it's gonna cut off early for everybody who rewatches it. YouTube insider tip. Pro tip. I don't know how long I have to let it run. How long do you think I gotta let it run?